Hello, Mr. Morrison. We are Team 5, consisting of Tiyani, Nick, Fang, Sarah, and myself, Maya. As you know, the case provided to us looks at a very well-known company known as the Ferrero Group, who has been making one of the world's finest hazelnut chocolates since 1946. The case goes on to explain that in recent years, there have been some issues related to securing supply for one of their key ingredients, hazelnuts. These issues stem from Ferrero's #1 supplier, the Olton Group, who collects 70% of their sales from Ferrero alone. Two major factors that are considered when producing hazelnuts include temperature and dry weather, which in 2014 had been severely impacted in one of Turkey's plants due to heavy frost. This unfortunately destroyed approximately 280,000 tons of hazelnut flower buds, resulting in the price of hazelnuts to rise from 12 to 23 Turkish lira per kilogram. Naturally, the heavy frost and spike in prices have severely affected not only the crops, but many families and businesses as well. So upon analyzing the case, we had looked at various options to address the recurring issue, and as a group, we have collectively decided to recommend a two-step process, beginning with a contract between Olton Group and Ferrero Group, with the second step being a tapered integration approach as a solution to securing supply for hazelnuts. This will be further explained by my colleagues throughout this presentation. I will now pass it on to Tiyani to talk about risks and challenges of supply chain in the future.
Thank you, Maya. Nutella, as a signature product in Ferrero, has expanded its production and supply globally. However, there are some risks and challenges in the supply chain management in the future. First, suppliers have strong bargaining power. The quality of Nutella is strongly affected by hazelnuts, which Ferrero has a single source from Olton Group in Turkey. Since there are few substitutes that provide the same quality and amount of hazelnut, it's both necessary and challenging to maintain a good relationship with all them and other suppliers to secure the supply and decrease the costs of raw material, including hazelnuts, cocoa, vegetable oil, and sugar. Second, there are challenges during the manufacturing period. The speculation and fluctuation of raw material price makes the costs of production hard to predict and analyze. Also, since most of the raw materials are globally imported, contingencies such as delay and shortage bring challenges to the company's order and shipment management. What's more, Ferrero needs to do regular quality check at the time those shipments arrive to make sure that the standard quality in manufacturing. Third, currently Nutella has 5 factories in Europe, 2 in South America, and 1 each in Russia, North America, and Australia, close to the market where demand is high. But the distributors are not evenly located in these areas. Also, some new demands may not be catered in this imbalanced distributor map. Now, Sarah and Nick are going to introduce us some pros and cons of Ferrero doing vertical integration.
Thank you. First, I'm going to speak to why Ferrero Group should not integrate. So first, would not be able to achieve economies of scale that would be required for this type of upstream production. Olton Group has likely reached economies of scale due to having the largest and most modern processing plant in the world. This is attributable to their size of production and their technological advances. These are sources of competitive advantages for Olton that Ferrero would not experience if they were to vertically integrate. The number of hazelnuts required to make it profitable for Ferrero would require large fixed costs to enter the market for processing hazelnuts for it to be profitable to stay in the market as well. The unprofitability of entering into this market is signaled by the lack of new entrants and the limited number of companies in the market. Additionally, Ferrero would not be protected against the fluctuating input prices of hazelnuts because the fluctuations are caused by environmental factors, which are in a large degree uncontrollable and not contributable to employee negligence. Therefore, shirking is likely not the problem here. Additionally, Ferrero has substantial bargaining power since they represent about 70% of Olten's sales of hazelnuts. So there will be a consequence to Olten if Ferrero were to stop purchasing from them, and it would likely increase their average cost due to the inability to find other buyers. And this increase may be so large that it'll make existing sales to smaller customers unprofitable. This means that Ferrero Group could negotiate an appealing contract that could limit the impact of hazelnut fluctuations on supply. Additionally, there's no significant problems with coordination nor the leakage of private information, which are generally factors which affect the make or buy decision in terms of being in favor of vertical integration. And lastly, consumers will benefit from the agreement between Ferrero Group and Olten, since it'll decrease the variable cost from uncertain hazelnut supply, and fixed costs due to vertical integration will not increase. And so therefore the per unit cost will not increase and consumers should be better off. And now Nick's going to walk you through why the Ferrero Group should integrate.
Thank you, Sarah. So the first reason for integrating vertically is to exploit learning economies. Knowing that hazelnut is a staple ingredient in primary products made by Ferrero, having no knowledge of the industry that produces this ingredient is a strategic threat. The case outlines issues Ferrero may face in the future relating to the production and distribution of hazelnut, but none more important than their supply, which faces a very real threat that will likely become worse over time. This is caused by uncontrollable climate changes like seasonal frost that threaten the hazelnut crop. So integrating vertically by purchasing and controlling a large part of the world's production of hazelnut would give Ferrero direct knowledge of the industry that only few in the world have. Being the most knowledgeable growers in the vital ingredient of your flagship products could protect them from trouble down the road, like the possibilities of farmers leaving the nut growing to pursue a different crop. So farmers could switch to less uncertain crops to ensure they are paid in full every harvest, lowering overall amount of hazelnut. The second issue is monopoly pricing. So normally this argument is a fallacy, because if hazelnut prices go up because of reduced supply, then Ferrero would be better off selling them on the free market. But in this case, Olten is already one of the largest purchasers of hazelnuts in the world. Hazelnut supply comes from largely one country, and a large portion of those hazelnuts go to Ferrero already, meaning there are a few other places to sell these hazelnuts to earn expanded profits outlined in the theory. This puts Ferrero in a position where they can either take yearly risks with pricing and their supply, or take control of the process to ensure their own supply and sell a much smaller amount if they do happen to have a surplus in the same year as other suppliers are selling a reduced supply. The third cause, an alternative to my colleague, is economies of scale. So currently Ferrero already purchases a large majority of Olten's supply and would be unlikely to reduce production because they are now their own main suppliers. Volatility of hazelnut is too uncertain, and reducing production on a good year would be bad practice. Therefore, they would have no increased variable costs for production after integrated. The additional amounts, given this volatility, makes selling additional hazelnut on the market an easy task. Olten's sales team already have clients that Ferrero would take over once they integrated. Ferrero could also choose to move production closer to facilities in areas they produce the actual chocolate, or move it into regions with cheaper labor. More importantly, they would also be at the table to decide how investments are made in innovation, something that Olten, given their market dominance, are not really motivated to do. So the final reason is to tie up distribution channels. By integrating vertically with Olten, Ferrero can ensure they get their whole supply needed for their chocolate line and could sell or hold additional stock if they chose. On a good year, Olten sells 70% of their stock to Ferrero, leaving 30% to the market. Because Olten also faces issues with meeting the 70% demand for Ferrero, because the issue of climate, they may have to choose to hold on to some of their supply for a free market demand to maximize their own profits, leaving Ferrero without their hazelnut. Because Olten knows this, a contract negotiation to ensure a level of supply provided by Olten would come at a significant premium, one that would eventually compare to the costs of integration. Ferrero would also be in a position where control over supply allows them to make new strategic moves, both upstream and downstream, that could force the hand of their competitors. First, new entrants into the hazelnut production could be severely limited when Ferrero takes control of Oltan. The 30% usually sold elsewhere is now also controlled by Ferrero and could be used to undermine competitors who use hazelnut in their chocolates, like Hershey. So vertical integration will result in an increase in fixed costs that could raise costs for consumers, one of the negatives. Now I'll pass it off to Fang.
Thank you, Nick. After considering the economic scale, competitors, consumers, cost, expense, marketing share, climate change, and difficulty of management, we decided to provide a tipped integration. The two-step process which will reduce both the cost, the risk, and at the same time, investing and gain the marketing share. Next page, please. Next page, please. For our short-term goals, we are going to negotiate a contract with Alton to ensure the certain percentage of their production goes to Ferrero, which will also include gaining learning economy from Alton. The target is to maintain the supply chain safety and reduce the risk of our business and the cost of the transport. Next page, please. And as a business, we always want to plan ahead of the time. What are we seeing our business after 5 to 10 years well going? Okay, we decide two things. First, Ferrero is going to uphold this contract with the Alton for the given percentage supply chain of hazelnut. Second, we are going to open a factory of hazelnut in Turkey, which will be not close enough to the factories we have right now. It will be far enough to make sure to reduce the transport cost. The target will be strong. In this case, the Ferrero will be having a stronger bargaining power, and at the same time, it will have the safer supply chain. So thank you so much for listening to us.